And so today's topic, attention, helps us to move more fully into that open receptivity, to being surrendered, to be connected. It's all it means, is be connected with that which is greater than we are, our source. And of course, when you go to the dictionary and you look up the word attention, you'll find the concentrated, singular focus on one idea, one thought, or one object. The concentrated, singular focus on one, just one thing. And there are single words that describe it in the dictionary too, like absorption, immersion, heedfulness, thoughtfulness, and on and on. And so attention is something you and I have listened to since we were knee-high to a grasshopper. You know, we're always called to pay attention, pay attention. If we had $1 for every time we heard that phrase, pay attention, we'd be doing very well, I'm knowing it. We'd be doing very, very, very well. So attention is coming to our attention today. And we have to see where it fits in the grand scheme of things with regard to our lives, our spiritual lives, our whole lives, unfolding and manifesting in a magnificent way. And we always want to manifest in a magnificent way, don't we? And we're accompanied by music to that too. I mean, you know, punctuating the importance of attending. Yes, I like it when that happens. Don't let it happen too often, though. And so, my dear ones, we're looking at that. But here's the thing about attention. Its power, its force, and its focus all depends upon the narrowness of our concentration. And so this is one time when we can get very narrow in our point of focus, because the more narrow we are in our point of focus, the more powerful and forceful is that concentration, that absorption, that immersion into whatever that good thing is that we desire. And now Neville, of course, our wonderful Neville, we're familiar with. I've been talking about him for the past 2 months. He says that it is lack of attention that prevents us from achieving the good that we desire. Lack of attention. And so when it comes to it, we have to make selection around attention. We have to be very, very selective, very, very selective in our life and living it in all times and in all situations, and whatever's going on, we must be selective. But when we are consumed with an idea that we wish to realize, yes, selection is deeply important. So the selection in this process, of course, is to release and let go of everything that is in conflict with the good that we desire, every conflicting thing, any negative thing that might get in the way of it. And so we select what? It's very simple. We're going back to basic Science of Mind 101. We take our mind off our problem and we put our mind on the solution. We take our mind off that which is not so good and we put our mind on what the good is that we wish to realize. I mean, how many times do we have to hear it? How many times do we have to tell ourselves it? It's not about hearing it and telling it and receiving it. It's about applying it, heeding it, and making it work in our lives, because we do that. It's very simple. Pay attention to your life. The call today, this week, is to pay attention to our life, so that what? So that we can live it brilliantly, and in a way that connects us and engages us with all of life, so that we can be thinking from that awesome, amazing latitude, feeling from it, acting from it, and experiencing it as that. This awesome, brilliant, huge, amazing thing that I am a part of and an essential part of. You see, it's not how we're used to thinking of ourselves. We get up in the morning, oh, good Lord, this hip is at me. Oh, my dear, I have to take care of that. Oh, and then there's the other thing to, oh, yeah. And that's the way the day starts for many of us, until we catch ourselves on. Because we religious scientists do catch ourselves on, even though we get up like that in the morning. We say, snap out of it. I'm knowing that's what we do. But there is a thought that I could wake up with if I was paying attention. As soon as I open my eyes, I could decide, this is the day that life has given me yet again as a gift. And I can do what I like with it, and I am going to make it count. I will make this day count, and I will not let it go until I have imprinted something good on this life and living that is given to me, that is mine, so that that ripple effect goes out and out and out and touches all life and living and raises it up, lifts it up, and makes a difference for the better. That's what I could do as soon as I open my eyes. And so could you. And that's why I always endeavor to awaken myself into a state that is making a decision already. And I have different things that I like to remind myself of in the morning. Sometimes I say, oh, God woke up in me today, now I'm choosing to wake up in God. Or I might say, this is the day that life has made. I am glad and I rejoice in it. Whatever it is that comes to me, something of that import. And that's the way I set my intention for the day. Now, as soon as I get out of the day and stub my toe, that may all go out the window. But I will endeavor to get myself back into that energy as soon as I possibly can. All right. So while I'm paying attention, and I make up my mind to pay attention, which is my first decision, I can ask myself the question, what is bothering me? Is there something bothering me? Because usually my day can't be lived magnificently if there's something bothering me. So I ask myself the question, what is bothering me? Is it money? Is it a bad diet? Is it lack of exercise? Is it poor relationships? Is it overspending, too much shopping, too much drinking? Whatever it is, what is bothering me? And I have to look at that and make a decision around it, attend to it, make a decision around it. Do I want that to keep bothering me, or is there something I can do about it so that it bothers me a little less until it's gone away for good? And there is always something we can do. Now, I get the lead for the something we can do from what I call the butterfly effect. In 1961, it was Edward Norton Lorenz who was messing around with wind philosophy and so on and so forth. And he entered an equation as he was working on whatever idea he was working on. And the number he entered was 0.000506. And the outcome somehow didn't gel with him. And then he went back to it and he realized that what had happened was he had left out 0.127. He should have entered into his calculation 0.0000506.127. That tiny little fraction of a number he discovered would be the difference between a sunny, beautiful day turning into a tornado-driven day, or in other words, the difference, the understanding and knowing that a butterfly flapping its wings over in Hawaii could create a huge storm on the other side of the world. That tiny little movement of energy, tiny, weeny, teeny smidgen of a movement in energy could have such a voluminous outcome. What has this got to do with what is bothering me? This. I can choose around whatever it is that's bothering me to make a tiny little weeny smidgen of a change that could bring about a huge result later on. So I'm eating a very bad diet. Decide One thing, I won't eat one thing of that today. Just one thing. I'll not eat one thing that's not good for me today. Just one, that's all. Just one. That's all. So, I'm smoking too much. Just decide, just this one cigarette, I will not smoke today. Just one, that's all. And so when I'm in the store and I'm ready to buy again, ask myself, what am I doing? What am I doing? Who am I allowing Spirit by means of me to be right now? What am I allowing Spirit to be by means of me right now? And take one thing out of the basket. Just one thing. One thing, that's all. This is all doable. Do you see where that's going? With whatever it is that's bothering you, make one tiny little change in your day. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And what you'll find is that after you've made one tiny little change, maybe you won't smoke 2 cigarettes today. Or you'll take 2 things out of the basket. And instead of going out again and getting all your gym equipment and your beautiful outfit, and then never showing up but maybe once a year to the gym to work out, you'll make up your mind, today for 5 minutes I will do something to move this body of mine. I'm going to move this body whether it wants to move or not for 5 minutes today. So whether that's jumping, standing in place, or whether it's just doing your bending or whatever, or just standing in place like this for 5 minutes looking at the telly or distracting yourself in some way because you know you can't do it unless you're distracted. Whatever it is, 5 minutes. If you can't do 5 minutes, start with 3, 1, for heaven's sakes, whatever it takes. This way, you and I set ourselves up for success and not for failure. Not for failure, because when we think we're going to take the one thing that's bothering us, and there's a whole list, one at a time, my dear ones, one at a time, that's all, one at a time, or you'll fall flat on your face. Well, at least 99% of us will. One thing at a time, and make the little bit of change, that tiny little butterfly flapping its wings over there in Hawaii or wherever, and then this big huge storm happening over there as a result of that. A small decision around a small thing can have a major and huge result in time. Everyone in this room is capable of this. There's not one of us that could not succeed in doing this. Not one of us. Right now, exactly as we are, all messed up though we might be. We can do that, and even those of us who are smug enough to think we have it together, beautifully, we can still improve too. There's something that needs improving. So attention, attention, attention. You see that word written on signs all over the place. All over the place. We are called to attention. But where do you have your signs that call you to attending to your own life? Have you got signs that wake you up and say, attend to your life, Moira? You are not. You've fallen asleep. You are not attending to your life. Oh yes, you're dappling in everybody else's, but you're not attending to your own life. Attend, attend, attend. Actun. Attention. Attention. You know? We need those signs wherever they are. You know, and as I say, I have friends all over the place of all different kinds of signs. Some of them have written over their desks, you know, do something, you know. And others will say, act. And others have action. Because it's all about action. We have become so sedentary, not just in our bodies, but in our minds, in our hearts, and in our souls. We've allowed that to happen, that paralysis to creep in. And that has to do with looking over our shoulders back at life, missing what was, or being anxious about what was. And as you know, Lot's wife, when she looked around, turned into a pillar of salt. The analogy for you and for me is if we keep looking over our shoulder back at our lives, we get paralyzed. Stuck, looking into the future, afraid of what might be, we get stuck. Attend to right here and right now and what's in front of us, and perhaps, just perhaps, you and I might be a bit more peace-filled, a bit more poised, a bit more capable, a bit more engaged in the process of our amazing lives. Now, you've been given a life and I've been given a life, and we can do what we like with it. It's okay. We can squander it. That's fine. Because sooner or later we won't. Sooner or later we'll wake up. We can snore our heads off through it. That's fine. It's a choice. It's a sovereign choice. And it just means that it will just take us longer to come back to ourselves and realize our purpose. That's all. It's a decision. But we're here in this room because I believe that we have all chosen to wake up sooner rather than later, to come home to ourselves sooner rather than later, to be in that state of open receptivity to the grandeur and the magnificence and the glory and the wonder of life happening, not out there, but by means of me and through me. Because out there doesn't make any difference. We look at that for a minute or two and we're kind of in wonder about it, and then it fades, and then we're back to our own self. Small self, with all of the egoic stuff that goes on, that keeps us confined, that keeps us complaining, that keeps us competing, that keeps us in our narrow state of lack of something or another. Competing, comparing, complaining, criticizing. Those are the 4 C's that Emma Curtis Hopkins says if you want to really take on your spiritual life and go for it, eliminate those 4 C's from your life and from your living. And when we do, the ego is assuaged, it's calmed, it's comforted, it feels a little safer, and it comes into that lovely state of joy and calm and playfulness and inspiration. Remember, the ego is just the child energy of ourselves that is always in a state of angst. And it takes the kind of direction from our thinking and from our feeling with regard to how it should be. And when you look at our thinking and you look at our feeling, it's no wonder the ego is as scared as all get up, frightened, and fighting for its turf, for its territory, because it's always afraid it's going to die. It's always afraid you're going to kill it. And that's why it fights you tooth and nail. It fights me tooth and nail to hang on to its old way of thinking and feeling and doing. But now is the time to unclench ourselves. My goodness me. My dear ones, if ever we needed a world, that has people in it who are willing to be attentive, awake, and alert, it is now. It is now. And if not now, when? When do you think you're going to get your act together? When do I think I'm going to get my act together? In the sweet tomorrow, in the sweet by and by? Tain't so. It's not going to happen. It can only happen right here and right now. You know yourself, your power is in today. Your power is in this moment now. It's the only place you can enforce anything. Today, today, today. Right here, right now. I was at a memorial service last night, and it's the same thing every time we come to a memorial service. One day, we will all have people in a room memorializing us. And it's a sober thought. And every time you go to a memorial service, you're thinking somewhere along the line, one day that'll be me they're talking about. And does the next question that follows, does it wake us up a little bit into, gee, there are things I have to mend, there are things I have to fix, there are things I have to take care of before that day comes for me to feel good about it. I better get going now because it's not going to happen tomorrow. I better start now. It's all part of your life and your engagement with it. It's all part of the understanding that we are here only in the moment now. There's no other time we are here. Isn't that interesting? We are only here now. Now is the only moment you have. It's the only moment I have. What are we going to do with that moment? What changes do I need to make in the moment? What difference can I make in the moment? What little energy can I start a vortex around so that it builds and builds and builds and builds until I attract into my life the good that I desire? I need to get going now on it. I can't wait until tomorrow. I really can't, and neither can you. Today is it. This moment is it. And everything in it, right here and right now, there's not a bother on anybody in this room. Not a bother. Except maybe we're fanning ourselves because we're a little bit hot. But that's because we're in the process of getting a whole new system. Be patient. Hang in there. It's just the beautiful mists of life landing upon your face in golden glows and globules of infinite possibility, reminding you that the oceans of infinite intelligence are available to us, and we can swim in them whatever way we choose to. We can swim in the ocean of consciousness, frightened and afraid, and sink. But never drown, because you don't. But you have the feeling of drowning. Or you can swim effortlessly, magnificently, enjoying every beautiful thing you're perceiving, knowing you're perfectly, perfectly safe in this ocean. Oh, my dear ones, some minds are a hard place to live in. What's your mind like just now? It's a good question to ask ourselves. Is it a safe place for you? And is it a safe place for others when they're in your company? I ask myself that question often. And so here's the thing, in conclusion, looking at this thing called attention. Nobody can call me to attention in my life except me. I'm the only one that can call myself to attention. I will not do it if I'm not connected with something greater than I am. I cannot do it if I do not have a close, intimate relationship with my source, that which is greater than I am. It's impossible otherwise. There are too many distractions, and I'm easily distracted. So, whatever it takes from each and every one of us to get with that, to get deeper and deeper engaged and immersed in the life that lives us, with the life that lives us, living from the life that lives us. Whatever it takes, you and I have to say yes to. And passionately and powerfully and enthusiastically, full of vim and vigor and zest, even if there's only one wheel on my wagon, it doesn't matter. I can set the intention to begin with, and then the tiny little bit of energy that I create around that intention, every time I remember that I've intended this, I can draw myself to that attention and say, you made up your mind this morning, Moira, to get back on track. Get back, get back. Get back to where you once belonged. That's all we have to do. Get back to where we belong. And we have plenty of help along the way, because as soon as you open yourself up to that, all of life will step in and applaud you and support you and be your greatest cheerleader. So let us not continue to dapple in the shallow waters of mindlessness. Let us launch out, plunge into the deep, and bring back with us a miraculous catch of beautiful blessings like desires fulfilled, dreams come true, and goals achieved, because we can. And when we attend to the good that we desire, when we absorb ourselves in it, when we allow ourselves to only think from it and feel from it and perceive from it and act as though it were already so, it has to happen. As Emerson says, when you see the end, the means by which the end is to be accomplished must appear, and you have it within you to live whatever life you so desire. And I am knowing for each of us this week we will attend to the great self within ourselves, and consequently have a brilliant week, a magnificent week, and make a difference and heal and mend and fix wherever is calling us to heal and mend and fix, or at least set the process moving in that direction. You are that magnificent point of light through which the infinite in all its radiant magnificence chooses to express itself. Never forget it, and so it is.